Hey, 420 MSP, Harry Harris. We go further, faster, and deeper into the cannabis industry, and not just technology. While that's our niche, it's actually quite a large industry. So we're kind of going outside our bubble today to talk to Scott Eckburg out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Scott, I'm already jealous of your lifestyle. Congratulations on stitching that together. You have a business called CRB Insurance. So let's first talk about what is your business entity, then we'll talk about how you serve this vertical.
Well, the business entity is cannabis-related business insurance is really the long version of CRB Insurance, and it's strictly a property casualty agency, but also I'm a brokerage as well. And the goal is to be direct with clients, work directly with clients, but also kind of try to cut out the middleman where I can and be the broker as well. And most of these markets are procured through the third-party broker space. And again, like I said earlier, just the conversation I had was with an underwriter at one of the larger carriers in the space, and getting a direct contract with that one as well.
Yeah. Now I'm not that familiar with the insurance industry other than healthcare, life insurance, and our own insurance at SMB Nation. But I always feel I just write a check and forget about it. So my question to you is, not knowing the insurance business, I'm assuming there's an element of domain expertise when you're in a vertical. Like if you were in the construction vertical, or in your case, the cannabis related business vertical. Talk to me about domain expertise, because you've put yourself in this line of work.
Yeah, really the government, at least in Colorado and many states, is requiring you to grow product, to produce product. Percentage here in Steamboat, there's 3 licenses for dispensaries, and they're producing approximately 75% of their own products for sale. So you need to be able to cover a grow facility. You need to be able to cover transportation. You need to cover the product liability. That's really a big issue. And then you have the end space of the dispensary and the end consumer. And then with many of these, you have with banks really on the sidelines from a lending platform standpoint. You have individuals, and there's a lot of boards, and D&O coverage is really a big issue as well.
Now, in the book I wrote, the how to be a computer guy, or how to be an MSP in the cannabis vertical, I really focus on what I think are the 3 parts of the supply chain. So the grower, the processor, producer, and the dispensary. And hopefully I laid that out clearly, and people get it up here. But do your services go beyond the supply chain? So maybe you would offer insurance to someone who is printing rolling papers, but somebody not in the direct supply chain?
Yes. So last night I had a conference call with a company out of Michigan, and they have armored trucks. They're doing payment processing from one to the other, and really, it's a typical exposure in the insurance industry, but it's specific to cannabis. And right there is going to turn off 90% of the carriers, and brokers that would be able to write that type of risk, just because of the industry that they're in. So no question, a lot of the business is coming from, compliance companies, even from a professional liability standpoint with attorneys.
Yeah, and you mentioned, well, you hit on a really interesting point, because part of my research in the book and some other cannabis related ventures I'm in related to state law. Now, I am in no way a lawyer. I play one on TV. And in the state of Washington, which I know best, we do not allow the vertical integration that you suggested is allowed in Colorado. So the whole idea when I interviewed the head of the State Liquor Cannabis Control Board was to keep out organized crime, right? So it has to be 3 separate entities on the supply chain. Colorado, it seems like you're allowing to some extent vertical integration. Is that what I took from your comment?
Yep, quite a bit of that there. And actually, my first client in the cannabis space was the year that Washington legalized cannabis, and being from the Chicago area, my first client dealt with a family office, very large client that was entering the cannabis space, and they were importing, vape pens in the cannabis industry. And it was a very difficult product. It was a brand new product. Scared the hell out of insurance companies. they weren't even set up to not do cannabis because cannabis didn't exist really in the legal marketplace. So it was interesting. And so I was really hooked, it's probably been 9 or 10 years since, and that account I would hope is still at my old agency system back in Illinois that I'd sold 4 years ago.
Yeah. Two more questions. One would be with the nature of your work. So again, let's go back to lawyers. I come from a family of lawyers, so it's an easy example. You have to be admitted to the state bar. So you have to state of Washington, but you can't necessarily practice in the state of Colorado. But we'll keep it simple, but that's the basic story. How about your line of work? Can you cross state boundaries? Are you licensed at the federal level, like SEC, or are you licensed at the state level? How does your industry work?
Good question. Really, if I find a risk in any of the 50 states, of course, in a legal state, which, goes without saying, I can write business in that state. Many states I have to file a tax return, and it's part of my old world from 26 years ago. Similar, where we'd have folks that have vacation homes in Florida or Arizona or California. Most of these retail agencies are going to be licensed in other states. There's a little more complexity with getting a state agency license, just to do business, but I'm essentially licensed in the states as I write business. I'm able to still quote business through brokers and through carriers, and then basically dot the I's and cross the T's prior to binding any type of risk.
Final question. Or you seem to have gotten in early, carved out a niche. You're developing a reputation. And I haven't heard of someone in your role. Now, I only know what I know as an analyst, but I haven't heard of someone in your role. So you're giving some speeches. Would you mind, you threw around names like Aspen, Colorado and stuff. Would you mind telling us how you're building your brand and delivering your expertise publicly?
Well, one of the fortunate things in my life was I was young enough and had a big enough agency system to qualify and join the Young Professional Organization YPO Network. And I am a member of the Aspen YPO chapter out in Colorado. And with the banks really on the sidelines in the lending platform, a lot of these vertically integrated companies, people that maybe were in the cannabis space but didn't have the financial backing really to take it to the next level. It's really a lot of individual investors, corporate investors that are funding this space, and a lot of those investors are in organizations like YPO. And through that network, they've been feeding me, so-and-so's in the payment processing business, so-and-so, has a large vertically integrated company in California. And it's creating opportunities through that network with, having built up relationships with trust in this industry. You're able to, I'll back up real quick. Most agents have access to most markets through a broker, whether it's direct or not. And so a lot of it comes down to a relationship, a comfort level. And certainly if a friend of a friend, is in the, on a board and D&O and the liability, they want to make sure the products are in place. And, so that trust is a big issue. And I get, I think some nice leads due to that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hey, I've got good news, or maybe you'll consider it bad news, but sir, I'm actually going to be driving through Steamboat Springs in mid-November. There's a big industry conference in my industry, a company called Ingram Micro. Ingram is 44 billion, well-known. They have a 3-day in Denver, Colorado, just after mid-November. Then I'm off to Austin, Texas to kind of snowbird. The point is, my friend, let's get on each other's calendar and do a in-person interview next month and double click. All right.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Scott. Hey, Jenny, over in the radio control room, thanks as always, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.